Most people search for illness in the body because pain there is easy to notice. A headache demands attention. A wound forces rest. Fever announces itself clearly. But the most dangerous sickness of our time does not hurt in obvious ways. It settles quietly in the mind, growing stronger while remaining unseen. This hidden epidemic is not carried by air or blood. It is carried by habits. It spreads through screens, constant notifications, endless information, and the belief that the mind must always be occupied. The modern world trains the mind to never be still. From early morning until late night, attention is pulled in hundreds of directions. Messages arrive without pause. Images change before the mind can digest them. Sounds overlap. Thoughts interrupt each other. And silence becomes uncomfortable. What seems like harmless entertainment slowly rewires the brain. Focus weakens. Patience shrinks. The ability to sit with one thought, one task, or one feeling begins to disappear. A disciplined mind is built through continuity. It requires staying with something long enough for depth to form. Constant stimulation breaks this continuity. When the mind jumps from one stimulus to the next, it never fully engages. This creates a surface-level way of thinking, quick reactions without reflection. Over time, this leads to mental fatigue, not because the mind works too hard, but because it works without direction. Distraction is often mistaken for relaxation. Many believe scrolling, watching, or consuming content is a way to rest. In reality, the nervous system remains active the entire time. The eyes move constantly. The brain processes endless signals. There is no true recovery. This is why many feel exhausted even after doing nothing all day. The mind has been running without control. Inner stability is the ability to remain centered regardless of external conditions. It is developed when the mind learns to stay present instead of chasing stimulation. When attention is constantly hijacked, inner stability collapses. Small problems feel overwhelming. Silence feels heavy. Being alone with one's thoughts becomes uncomfortable. This is not because the mind is weak by nature, but because it has been trained to avoid itself. The danger of this epidemic lies in its invisibility. A person can appear functional, working, talking, laughing, while internally feeling restless, anxious, and scattered. There may be no medical diagnosis, yet the quality of life quietly declines. Motivation fades. Discipline feels impossible. The mind resists effort and seeks escape. This is how potential is lost without anyone noticing. Focus is not a talent, it is a skill, and like any skill, it weakens when not used. Constant stimulation trains the mind to expect novelty every few seconds. When novelty disappears, boredom appears. When boredom appears, discomfort follows. Instead of facing this discomfort, many immediately reach for another distraction. This cycle slowly destroys the ability to concentrate on meaningful tasks, long-term goals, and personal growth. Mental noise also disconnects people from their bodies. When attention lives only in the head, physical signals are ignored. Fatigue is masked with stimulation. Stress is numbed with entertainment. Emotional tension is avoided rather than processed. Over time, the body begins to express what the mind refuses to face through chronic stress, tension, poor posture, shallow breathing, and weakened immunity. The illness begins in the mind but eventually manifests in the body. A warrior's education teaches that stillness is not emptiness. It is clarity. When the mind becomes quiet, awareness sharpens. One begins to notice subtle thoughts, emotional patterns, and unconscious habits. This awareness is uncomfortable at first because it removes escape. But within this discomfort lies freedom. A mind that can sit in silence without reaching outward regains authority over itself. Discipline is not force, it is alignment. When the mind is constantly distracted, discipline feels painful because there is no internal order. Every task feels like a battle. But when stimulation is reduced and attention is trained, discipline becomes natural. The mind learns to move where it is directed, not where it is pulled. The hidden epidemic survives because it is normalized. Everyone is distracted, so distraction feels acceptable. Everyone is mentally tired, so exhaustion feels normal. But normal does not mean healthy. A warrior does not measure life by what is common. He measures it by what strengthens or weakens the self. Recovery begins with small, conscious resistance, creating moments of silence, doing one task at a time, training the body daily to anchor the mind, observing thoughts without immediately reacting to them. These practices rebuild focus, stability, and self-respect. They reconnect the mind to its natural rhythm. The mean, the past, survival demanded effort. The body was used daily, challenged by necessity, shaped by resistance. Movement was not optional, and discomfort was a teacher rather than an enemy. In the modern world, this relationship has been reversed. Comfort is no longer a reward earned through effort. It has become a constant condition. This shift seems harmless, even desirable, but it carries a silent cost. When comfort replaces discipline, the body begins to decline, not suddenly, but gradually, almost politely, until weakness feels normal. The human body adapts precisely to how it is used. When challenged, it grows stronger. When spared from effort, it becomes fragile. Overcomfort removes the signals that tell the body to evolve. Soft surfaces replace natural posture. Machines replace movement. Temperature is controlled so precisely that the body forgets how to regulate itself. Food is abundant and effortless, requiring no physical engagement to obtain. Each of these comforts seems small, but together they teach the body that strength is unnecessary. Inactivity does not announce itself as danger. It arrives disguised as convenience. Sitting replaces walking. Vehicles replace effort. Screens replace physical engagement. The muscles, joints, and cardiovascular system receive less demand each day. Without demand, they respond by reducing capacity. Muscles weaken, bones lose density, circulation slows. The body does not complain immediately, it waits. Years later, stiffness, pain, fatigue, and limited mobility appear, and people believe aging is the cause. In truth, neglect is the cause. Avoidance of discomfort is where the real damage occurs. Discomfort is the body's signal that growth is possible. Heat, cold, fatigue, resistance, and effort all carry information. They teach the nervous system how to adapt, regulate, and recover. When discomfort is avoided at all costs, these adaptive systems weaken. The body becomes sensitive, reactive, and easily overwhelmed. Minor stress feels exhausting. Small challenges feel threatening. Resilience disappears quietly. Discipline is often misunderstood as harshness. In reality, discipline is structure that protects the body from decay. Regular movement, strength training, controlled breathing, and consistent sleep are not punishments. They are conversations with the body that say, "You are needed. Stay strong." Without this conversation, the body assumes it can relax indefinitely. Relaxation without effort becomes deterioration. Modern comfort also separates effort from reward. Food arrives instantly. Entertainment requires no movement. Relief from boredom is immediate. This conditions the nervous system to expect pleasure without work. Over time, the body loses its tolerance for effort. Physical exertion feels uncomfortable not because it is harmful, but because the body has forgotten how to endure. This leads to a cycle where effort is avoided, weakness increases, and avoidance becomes justified. A disciplined body supports a disciplined mind. When the body is weak, the mind becomes fragile. Energy drops, motivation fades, emotional regulation becomes difficult. Physical inactivity is closely tied to anxiety, restlessness, and low mood, because movement is how the body processes stress. When stress has no outlet, it accumulates. Comfort numbs this accumulation temporarily, but it does not resolve it. Longevity is not determined by how long the body lasts, but by how well it functions over time. A body protected from all stress becomes unprepared for real challenges. Illness, injury, or unexpected demands overwhelm it more easily. In contrast, a body trained through controlled discomfort develops reserve capacity. It can respond instead of collapse. This reserve is what allows people to remain independent, capable, and mentally clear as they age. The warrior's approach to the body is not extreme. It is consistent. Small daily challenges create long-term strength. Rising early, moving with intention, training when motivation is absent, exposing the body to controlled difficulty, effort, resistance, breath, and stillness. These practices remind the body of its purpose. They restore communication between mind and muscle, breath and movement. Comfort should follow effort, not replace it. Rest is meaningful only after work. Ease is valuable only when strength exists beneath it. When discipline leads and comfort follows, balance is restored. The body remains adaptable. Pain becomes information instead of fear. Fatigue becomes a signal to recover, not a reason to stop entirely. Awareness is the foundation of control. Without awareness, no action is truly chosen, it is only triggered. The greatest mistake of the modern individual is believing that freedom comes from having more options, more information, and more stimulation. In reality, freedom comes from knowing what is happening inside oneself at any given moment. When awareness fades, control quietly disappears, and life begins to happen to the person instead of being directed by them. Attention is the gatekeeper of awareness. Whatever holds attention shapes thought, emotion, and behavior. When attention is constantly pulled outward towards screens, noise, opinions, and endless input, the inner world becomes neglected. Thoughts arise without being noticed. Emotions surface without being understood. Impulses act without being questioned. The person feels busy yet disconnected, active yet not present. Most people believe they are thinking, but in truth, they are reacting. A notification appears, and the hand moves automatically. A comment is heard, an emotion rises instantly. A desire appears, and action follows without pause. This chain is not freedom, it is conditioning. The loss of awareness removes the space between stimulus and response. In that missing space, control is lost. The mind, when left unobserved, operates on habit. It repeats familiar patterns because they require less energy. If the habit is distraction, the mind seeks distraction. If the habit is avoidance, the mind avoids. Over time, these patterns harden. A person begins to believe, this is just how I am, not realizing that identity has been shaped by unattended habits rather than conscious choice. Emotional instability is one of the clearest signs of lost awareness. When attention lives externally, emotions are driven by circumstances. Praise creates elevation. Criticism creates collapse. Silence creates anxiety. Noise creates agitation. The emotional state rises and falls based on external events, leaving the person feeling powerless. This instability is not weakness of character, it is absence of observation. Impulse is emotion seeking immediate expression. Without awareness, impulse feels urgent and unquestionable. Anger demands release. Desire demands satisfaction. Fear demands escape. Awareness introduces delay. It allows the emotion to be felt without being obeyed. In this delay, mastery is formed. Without it, behavior becomes reactive and often regretted. The body reflects the state of awareness. Shallow breathing, tense posture, restless movement, and compulsive habits all indicate a mind pulled outward. When awareness is absent, the body carries stress unconsciously. Muscles tighten without reason. Breath shortens without notice. Fatigue accumulates without understanding. Control over the body weakens because the signals are no longer being heard. Modern life rewards outward attention. Productivity, speed, and responsiveness are praised. Stillness, slowness, and observation are often misunderstood as laziness. This creates a culture where awareness is sacrificed for output. People become efficient but unstable, capable but internally chaotic. The cost of this imbalance appears later as burnout, anxiety, and loss of purpose. True control is not suppression, it is clarity. Suppression fights impulses blindly, often creating internal conflict. Awareness dissolves the impulse by understanding it. When a thought is seen clearly, it loses its power. When an emotion is felt fully without resistance, it completes its cycle. When an urge is observed without judgment, it weakens. This is how mastery develops, not through force but through attention. A warrior trains awareness before action. He learns to observe breath, posture, thought, and emotion as they arise. This observation creates space. In that space, choice becomes possible. Choice leads to alignment. Alignment leads to control that feels calm rather than tense. This is why disciplined individuals appear composed even under pressure. They are not calmer by nature, they are more aware. Loss of awareness also disconnects people from values. When reactions dominate, decisions are made based on immediate comfort or fear, not long-term principles. One says things that damage relationships. One avoids challenges that would build strength. One pursues distractions instead of purpose. Later, regret appears, not because the person lacked knowledge, but because awareness was absent in the moment of choice. Rebuilding awareness does not require withdrawal from life. It requires returning attention to what is already happening. Feeling the breath while walking, noticing tension while speaking, observing thoughts before acting on them. These small acts of presence restore control gradually. The mind becomes less reactive. Emotions become informative instead of overwhelming. Impulses lose urgency. The path of the warrior has never been about escape from the world. It has always been about returning to what is essential. When life becomes chaotic, The solution is not to add more techniques, more information, or more complexity. The solution is to simplify. Simplicity clears the noise that hides truth. Structure gives direction to effort. Self-command restores dignity to action. Together, these form the foundation of recovery in a world that has drifted far from balance. Simplicity begins with removing what is unnecessary. Not everything that is available is needed. Not every thought requires attention. Not every impulse deserves action. The modern individual is surrounded by excess information, excess choice, excess stimulation. This excess scatters energy. When energy is scattered, progress slows. The warrior learns to narrow focus, one task at a time, one priority at a time, one breath at a time. This narrowing does not reduce life, it deepens it. Structure is the container that holds discipline. Without structure, even good intentions dissolve. Motivation rises and falls, but structure remains. Fixed times for waking, training, eating, and resting create rhythm. Rhythm stabilizes the nervous system. When the body knows what to expect, it conserves energy. When the mind knows what comes next, it resists distraction less. Structure is not rigidity, it is reliability. Daily discipline is the bridge between intention and identity. What is practiced daily becomes character. Small actions, repeated without negotiation, reshape the mind and body. Training when tired, sitting in silence when restless, choosing nourishment over indulgence. These acts appear ordinary, but their accumulation is transformative. Discipline teaches self-trust. Each completed action becomes evidence. I do what I decide. This trust is the core of self-command. Self-command is not domination of the self. It is leadership of the self. A leader listens before directing. The warrior observes his internal state before acting. He recognizes fatigue without surrendering to laziness. He acknowledges emotion without being ruled by it. This relationship is respectful. The body is not an enemy to be forced. The mind is not a child to be punished. They are partners that require guidance. Conscious habits restore balance between mind and body. The mind often moves faster than the body, pulling it into constant tension. The body responds by becoming stiff, tired, or ill. When habits include movement, breath, and stillness, communication is restored. Physical training grounds the mind. Breath calms the nervous system. Stillness sharpens awareness. Balance is not achieved through one practice, but through integration. Recovery is gradual. The warrior does not expect immediate peace or strength. He expects resistance. Old habits protest. The mind seeks distraction. The body resists effort. This resistance is not failure, it is confirmation that change is occurring. Each time discipline is chosen over comfort, the warrior strengthens his capacity to choose again. Over time, resistance weakens, and discipline becomes natural. Simplicity also applies to goals. The warrior does not chase many directions at once, he commits fully to what matters. This commitment removes inner conflict. When actions align with values, energy is no longer wasted on indecision. Life feels lighter, not because it is easy, but because it is clear. Respect for the mind-body balance means understanding their interdependence. A neglected body clouds the mind. A restless mind exhausts the body. Recovery requires honoring both. Adequate sleep is not optional. Movement is not negotiable. Silence is not indulgence. These are necessities for sustained strength. The warrior's path does not reject modern life. It navigates it with intention. Tools are used, not obeyed. Comfort is enjoyed, not depended upon. Information is accessed, not consumed endlessly. This discernment protects clarity. It prevents overload. It preserves energy for what truly matters. Self-command creates freedom. When a person governs themselves, they are less controlled by circumstance. External chaos loses its power. Challenges are met with steadiness. Failure becomes instruction rather than identity. Success becomes responsibility rather than ego. This inner order radiates outward, influencing relationships, work, and presence. The return to simplicity, structure, and self-command is not regression. It is evolution through refinement. By removing excess, the essential becomes strong. By building structure, effort becomes efficient. By practicing discipline, the self becomes reliable. Recovery is not dramatic, it is quiet. It happens in early mornings, in repeated movements, in moments of restraint. Over time, these moments accumulate into a life that is stable, capable, and grounded. This is the warrior's path, not heroic in appearance, but powerful in effect. Silence is a powerful teacher of awareness. In silence, there is no distraction to hide behind. The mind reveals its patterns. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. Restlessness increases, thoughts multiply. This discomfort is not a problem, it is exposure. With time, the mind settles and clarity emerges. This clarity is not empty, it is alert, grounded, and responsive. When awareness returns, control follows naturally. Life becomes less chaotic, not because circumstances change, but because responses become intentional. The individual no longer lives at the mercy of triggers. They regain authorship over their actions. This is not dominance over others, but mastery of the self. Control without awareness is force. Awareness without control is observation. Together, they form discipline. And discipline is the quiet power that allows a person to live deliberately in a world designed to pull attention away. The body does not demand perfection, it demands participation. Each day without movement is a message of abandonment. Each act of discipline is a message of respect. Over time, these messages shape the body's condition. Strength returns quietly, posture improves. Energy stabilizes, confidence grows not from appearance but from capability. When comfort rules, the body weakens in silence. When discipline returns, the body responds with loyalty. It becomes reliable, resilient, and ready. This is not about suffering for its own sake, it's about honoring the design of the human body. Effort is not the enemy, avoidance is. ND was never meant to be constantly entertained, it was meant to be directed. When direction returns, clarity follows. When clarity returns, strength grows. This is how the hidden epidemic loses its power, not through fear, but through awareness and discipline practiced daily, quietly, and with intention.